the son of an earl, rather than the heir, but at least he wasn't a starving artist or an actor like Vera's previous boyfriends. Felix was tall and handsome, was indisputably charming, and he actually had a chin, which in aristocratic circles was always a bonus. He was perhaps a little too fond of betting at the racetrack, but he could afford this indulgence, and at least he didn't drink too much or take drugs. Vera's father seemed happy enough with Felix's prospects. Her parents had certainly gone to no end of effort and expense when it came to the lavish wedding banquet to be held right here at Glenbrook House. Vera's smile wavered now, however, when she realised that Pandora had slipped out of the room, which meant she wouldn't be able to quiz the girl further about her cryptic question. So no one's told you about the farm? Surely a bride's wedding day was the very worst time to suddenly pose a disturbing question about the bridegroom's property. Trying not to worry, Vera frantically backtracked through her seemingly innocuous conversation with Pandora. They'd agreed that this day was lovely, warm and sunny, and simply perfect for a spring wedding. Pandora had offered polite compliments about the beautiful gardens and grounds of Glenbrook House, and Vera had agreed that she'd never seen her family estate looking prettier, with the lawns so smooth and green, and the huge urns on the terraces overflowing with colour, the roses on the arches in full bloom, and the clematis and honeysuckle flowering over the ancient walls. Just thinking about the home that she'd loved and was about to leave, Vera had felt a little nostalgic, and she had cheered herself by remarking that she was very much looking forward to the lovely garden at Felix's farm in Devon. At which point, Pandora had stared back at her in blank dismay. "So, no one's told you about the farm?" "All right, then." Vera's mother was back in the doorway now, and she flashed another smile as she prepared to leave. "I'll let your father know that he can come and collect you, shall I?" Vera almost called, "No, wait for a moment, please." She was desperate to know if her mother had heard any news about Felix's property. But how could she voice such an awkward question at the 11th hour? Already the wedding guests would be filing into the church. The organist would be playing Sheep May Safely Graze, and Vera's grandmother, having been escorted to the front pew, would be sitting stiff-backed, gazing stoically at the rose window above the altar, and no doubt remembering all the funerals she'd attended at that very same church. And Felix would be waiting. Perplexing as Pandora's question had been, it couldn't be anything serious. Surely Felix would have told Vera if it was. Most likely, it was a simple case of Pandora enjoying a small tease. The girl had giggled, after all. Perhaps Pandora had simply meant that the garden was a bit of a mess, but that wouldn't bother Vera. With a little advice from her mother, she would enjoy knocking it into shape. Telling herself she was overreacting, she bit back the question tingling on her tongue, and she nodded instead. "Yes," she told her mother. "I'm ready." She would have to trust Felix. As brides had done throughout history, she had to have faith that all would be well. Really, what choice did she have? Chapter 1. New feet within my garden go, new fingers stir the sod. New feet within my garden go, by Emily Dickinson. Just 5 minutes before Maddie learned that her boyfriend was two-timing her, she bought a pot plant. It had been sitting in a shop window, rather like the dog in the famous song, but instead of a waggly tail, the plant had eye-catching, healthy green leaves with splashes of showy, bright splotches of pink. Maddie had been wandering through an arcade during her lunch break, and when she passed the florist, she knew immediately that this plant, in its trendy greystone pot, would be perfect for her apartment, lending a touch of glamour to the rather quiet decor. She was always on the lookout for ways to enhance her living space, mainly to impress Simon, of course. Mind you, most of Simon's visits happened late at night, after they'd been to a party or to dinner somewhere, and by then the lights in Maddie's apartment were mostly out, and Simon's attention was focused entirely between the sheets. Not that she was ever going to mind about that. "Set this philodendron near a window if you can," the florist told Maddie. "Someplace where it will get a natural light." Maddie suggested that the big window in her living room should be fine. The woman frowned as she considered this. "Morning or afternoon sun?"